At 100, Dick Van Dyke names the 6 celeb deaths that affected him most. At 100 years old, Dick Van Dyke is more than just a Hollywood legend, he is a living chronicle of entertainment history. But reaching a century of life comes with a heavy price, saying goodbye to the people who walked that long road beside him. Join Prestige Buzz as we look into the 6 celebrity deaths that affected Dick Van Dyke most. 1. Mary Tyler Moore, the work wife. When the creators of The Dick Van Dyke Show were casting for the role of Laura Petrie, they had already rejected 60 actresses. Then, a 23-year-old Mary Tyler Moore walked in. Despite an 11-year age gap, she and Dick fit together like two pieces of a puzzle. They shared a unique language rooted in dance. They didn't need to speak to coordinate a physical gag, they moved in total sync. Dick has openly admitted he had a bit of a crush on Mary, but their bond remained a deep, respectful friendship that lasted decades. Mary lived with type 1 diabetes for most of her life, and in January 2017, she passed away at age 80. For Dick, the news was devastating. At her memorial, he gave a heartfelt eulogy, calling her the engine of their show. To Dick, Mary wasn't just a co-star, she was the person who helped him become the legend he is today. 2. Carl Reiner, the brother in comedy. If Mary was his partner on screen, Carl Reiner was the architect of Dick's career. Originally, Carl wrote the lead role of The Dick Van Dyke Show for himself, but upon meeting Dick, he selflessly stepped back, realizing Dick had a special energy that the show needed. Their partnership turned into a 60-year brotherhood. In their later years, they established a heartwarming routine known as the Game Night Years. Almost every night, Dick would visit Carl's home in Beverly Hills to eat dinner and watch movies. When Carl passed away in June 2020 at age 98, Dick was shattered. He famously stated that the world felt much quieter without Carl's laughter. For Dick, Carl wasn't just a writer, he was the man who understood his soul better than anyone else. 3. Rob and Michelle Reiner, a loss of family. Dick's bond with Carl was so deep that it naturally extended to Carl's son, Rob Reiner. Dick watched Rob grow from a young boy running around the TV studio into a world-famous director. Because Dick and Carl were like brothers, Dick was a constant, second father figure in Rob's life. They shared holidays, birthdays, and the inner workings of old Hollywood social life. However, 2025 brought a shock that no one saw coming, the sudden and mysterious deaths of Rob and his wife, Michelle. At nearly 100, losing the boy he watched grow up felt like losing a son. It signaled the final closing of a door for Dick. The old Hollywood social circle he had inhabited for 60 years, the weekly gatherings and the shared memories seemed to vanish with them. 4. Walt Disney, the North Star. In the early 1960s, Walt Disney personally recruited Dick for the role of Bert in Mary Poppins. Dick, ever the enthusiast, actually begged Walt to let him play the second role of the elderly banker, Mr. Dawes Sr., even offering to do it for free. Walt became a mentor to Dick, guiding him through the transition from television to big-budget movies. They bonded over their shared kid-at-heart outlook on life. When Walt died suddenly in 1966, Dick felt like the industry had lost its North Star. Even today, whenever Dick works on a Disney project, he speaks of feeling the ghost of his mentor and feels a responsibility to keep Walt's sense of wonder alive. 5. Gene Hackman, the respected contemporary. While Dick was the king of light-hearted comedy, Gene Hackman represented the new, raw style of gritty acting. Despite their different styles, they became close friends on the Hollywood circuit. They shared a mutual respect for the craft and the hard work required to stay relevant as the industry changed. When Gene passed away in January 2025, it was a heavy blow. Being close in age, Gene's death was a personal reminder to Dick of how much time had passed. They were some of the only people left who remembered the middle decades of the century. With Gene gone, Dick felt his professional world become significantly emptier. 6. Ed Asner, the soulmate. Dick and Ed Asner were the ultimate odd couple. Ed was known for his gruff, loud, and politically active persona, while Dick was the sunny optimist. Yet, they became incredibly close soulmates, largely through their shared work with the Screen Actors Guild. They spent hours discussing the importance of being a character actor and protecting the rights of their fellow performers. When Ed passed away in August 2021 at age 91, Dick felt like the last man standing.
Ed was the final link to the Mary Tyler Moore era of television.
Without Ed, there was no one left to reminisce with about those specific days at the studio, leaving Dick with a profound sense of loneliness. A century of memories. Dick Van Dyke's 100 years have been filled with unparalleled success, but they have also been marked by the quiet sorrow of being a survivor. He continues to stay active, proving that while his friends may be gone, the joy they created together remains. If you enjoyed this look back at Dick Van Dyke's incredible life and the legends he loved, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Prestige Buzz, and hit the bell notification so you never miss a story about your favorite icons.